Thank you very much, guys, and yeah, love to see what Maxter had to say and exactly what he's thinking of in terms of his event and like how he's been progressing and like his practice regimen and what he wants to do here. And he has been looking very solid. He hasn't really felt any pressure. He came in and he was loving life really pretty much at that point. But you know, we do have Base versus Hell coming up next. It's going to be, of course, for Hell, a very tall order once again. We know what Base's style can be like. It can be a little bit of a pain just trying to force it upon you. But at the same time with Hell, it's the fact that it's not really more about his movement, anything like that. It's always been known for his raw aim skill, and especially with a lot of the slide champions like Slash, etc. So we'll have to see if he can actually take Base off guard in some way. But it's going to be very tough.
Yeah, I think Maxter Chad needs to be an emote. Like, yeah. I just got to give a shout out to Maxter. He's such a great guy, and it's great that he was up there volunteering. I want to get him here so I can actually get rid of you. But nonetheless, great to see him up there. And to your point on Base, I think Maxter actually summed it up best. We need to see a more patient version of Hell. We know the way Base will play. We know that he will go out to try and punish you. And to Hell's credit, he does have great combat skill on his day, but he is also subject to overconfidence, over-aggression, and he will fall into those traps. So if he can play a more patient play, if he can play a more patient game, I don't disagree with Max. He can upset people. We've seen it in the past. Do I expect that Hell? I don't know.
Well, this is going to be one of the main talking points. It's going to be very hard to call. And with Maxter being here, well, you know, I'm pretty scrawny compared to the both of you. I know you're both big lads, so I know, you know, I'm going to struggle with that anyway. But, yeah, it's just some other things. I know.
That's a pretty poor effort.
I know. I haven't got much on me. Like, you know, you can tell I've not, you know. I would have thought, because it's been 4 years since we sat next to each other, I would have thought, you had a few days off in the gym. Surely, you know, he's toned down a bit. You haven't. You're just still giving it, aren't you, Dan?
I'm the scale bearer.
You literally are. And it's just going to be unheard of, depending on this matchup is going to go. A few of them have been predictable, but at the same time, like with a lot of these players, they've done a better reflection to the scoreline, like with Wolf in that first map against Wenger. And we saw, you know, some signs of life from Bucks. Like I said, just literally pushing Arik towards, you know, the edge of the earth to try and make something happen. And he really did, you know, especially in that second map. He had quite a decent lead, but things just fell short massively, didn't it? And for Heldo, it's going to be interesting because we've not really seen him, you know, in this kind of setting in, of course, a very long time, but I suppose of online, especially in the QPL, where I think the last time we saw him was when he played against Garpy in a couple of stages ago in the relegation.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think we saw it where he was like, almost up on every single map, but losing it. And we're like, how on earth did you lose it? So that's just Hell through and through. So let's just jump into the picks and bans so we can actually dissect it a little bit more and see what he can bring to the table, because this is definitely obviously going to be crucial. If Hell can get some good movement champions, which he doesn't, I was going to say puts him in better state because he likes the crouch sliding, he likes to play aggressive, but he's actually gone the other way. Now, that's unusual from my point of view. You see Galena there and the Visor, both of which you have to play strategical and positional. So in some ways, it actually forces him to play a different game than I would normally expect to see from Hell.
Yeah, I would definitely say the map's in favour of Base, absolutely. He did ban the Slash on Ruins, assuming that Hell would possibly go for that. And the only research he has is, like we said before, you know, against that Garpy match in the relegation. And he played really well. Like, he had some great aim skill across the board. He had a lot of positional advantage, but it's the timing of the items he failed on, you know, numerous different occasions. And this is something he is definitely well aware of. It's just a matter of how much time he's put into the game, how much time he's able to invest in order to try and cover these mistakes from, you know, resurfacing once again. And I'm not too sure if he's able to do that. But hopefully for his sake he does. Like, it does depend on the circumstances how this first map is going to go. And we are going to see Eisen versus Galena once again. And we did get a flavour of that earlier on.
Absolutely. So we know that's going to play out. And then we see a Deep Embrace. You've got the Ranger against the Doom. I actually slightly favour the Ranger on that map. Not to any sort of degree where it's going to give him an advantage. If it gets to Ruins, though, I am actually a little bit worried with the Visor pick. Obviously, the piercing sight is great. But the Anarchy, particularly on base, we just know how proficient he is there. So if we're honest, I don't expect it to go to a third map. It definitely can. I hope it's not a whitewash either. We've seen highs and lows of Hell. If as Max said, if a good version of Hell comes out today, he cannot upset base. If he stabilizes, if he doesn't give away too much of a lead, he can keep in the game and he can play well. A big part of it is going to be rail. If his rail is on, he becomes scary.
And we've seen that once before, haven't we? It's like we said before, just keep those items in check. And it's not really even just keeping in check all the time. It just needs to always consistently reposition himself in order to be able to contest it. That's why we don't see enough. They don't really bully the items enough here. And it depends if Base does give him some kind of leeway by any means. But he knows that Base is very well known for just, playing quite a passive style, quite reactionary depending on the situation he's actually in or what scenario he places himself in. And Hell, again, is going to be well aware of that. So he knows that it's going to be a tough road and it's going to depend on how he reacts to the situations Base puts himself in terms of positioning.
Can I also just say, the graphics are so nice.
They are
They're so nice. I like it. I like it a lot. But no, I think we know we're going to get here. It's actually fairly standing picks across the board. We've seen 2-0s all day to this point, but they've been fairly hotly contested maps here or there dotted throughout. I think it was obviously the second map in Garpy Maxter. It was the first map in Buxter versus Avex. So actually both of them are pretty contested. So we've seen some good series. I hope this is another one. I'm excited to see again Base in these sort of conditions as well. He's often obviously playing out on the Moscow server. So it's really nice to see a bit more of a flat, plateaued field. And it is good to see Hell back in this sort of competitive environment as well, after being so close to getting back into the same. So same as I said to kind of the Buxter speech before, so close to being at that level. It's just such a hard contest, particularly in the EU region, to get there. More than deserves to be here, though.
Yeah, definitely. And, we're due a map for you, Dan. It's going to come at some point. I don't know about this matchup. We might do. Yeah, I am going to definitely keep my fingers crossed as well because, Hell's going to be joining us later. But
yeah, so my voice is Team Base at this point. I mean, he's on the graphics talent bracket as well. So my voice is definitely...
Time's ticking now.
Yeah, come on, Aaron. But I mean, my British show, all his Welsh, kind of cheering him on as well.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we don't want him to go out obviously straight away. We'll do the best that he can, but of course, if he does survive until the Sunday, then we've got a long road ahead as well.
Screwed if he's here on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean that's literally an understatement of the century, but I can agree.
He also makes me have normal dark hair as well, so it's a good contrast. He might be greater than DJ Wheat.
He could be, I wonder if...
quite the effort.
Yeah, I wonder how DJ Wheat thinks of it. I'm sure we'll have to...
DJ Wheat's flying to get in the QPL to be the young man of the squad.
Exactly. Do you know what? Hell is actually probably the longest standing player because it's literally, 24 years. He won his first Quake 2 tournament back in '97. That's how long Hell has been around, and he's still here. To this day, it will be his 25th year competing next year, and Hell's still here. It's giving it.
He's older than Wenger. He's been competing longer than Wenger's been alive.
Yeah. That's
wow,
mad.
That's actually mental.
When you think about that standout, because I remember just reading about that stuff, and I was like, Hell won his first Quake 2 tournament back in '97. We're in 2021, and we're still seeing him on the main stage here, competing at a very high level. And we can see if he can cause an upset here. This is the fourth series of the day's winners bracket round 1. All of his matches here today will be a best of 3, and let's see what Hell can bring to the table against a very strong stance in Base.
We are over on Base, but we're seeing Old Man Hell. I'm not going to use that phrase. That's the only time I'm going to throw out there. That's disrespectful. Base slower start, picked up the rail, knows exactly where his opponent is though, so won't be scooting over that way.
At the moment, Base is waiting for Hell to just push through that telly, but it seems like Hell really knows what he's up to. So a little bit of damage there, just to force Hell to keep his distance, but he's actually pushed straight in, but Sadabako once again, of course, but hits the second one straight after. Looking for the third, and that was perfect position there just to get that ankle, and you can see already looking very slow. Trying to get one more, which he does, and he's just doing so much work already. At one point, he was standing still, but the tri-bolt comes out, and already Base comes out with the first frag.
And Hell is getting picked apart. There's another spawn frag. Base forcing him once again. He knows exactly where Hell would have spawned. So just picking up that Mega, delaying it a little bit, so disorientating Hell. And we'll be back across map to pressure out Hell over here. And this is where Hell's in a bit of trouble. He needs his rail to start connecting, but he's actually stuck. The turret blocks his way through. How frustrating. Also a poor use of his own totem as well. That's a waste of that resource. The pressure from Base is sustained.
Yeah, definitely a turnaround. 4-0 now, it's only been 90 seconds. Still early days as of yet, but the problem is here, Dan, items are already heavily segregated this early on. Picks up the Mega. Depends on if Hell knows his timings outright, but it's going to add a little bit more. If he can, does finish at 51 HP, but Heavy ready to be picked up. He's not going to get the spawn on the rail, so it does mean he can pick up the heavy for free, uncontested. And now they'll have to see how Hell can try and pin himself in this matchup. A lot of damage though, nicely done there by Hell, making sure to secure that first frag for himself.
And if Base comes stalling back in, he knows now he's missed the Mega though, so won't be pressing too hard. Waits for Hell to jump down and take the high ground and pressure this heavy. And if we just hark back to the previous series we saw, this is something Bumpster just wasn't able to do, unfortunately, on the defense. Base getting onto that high ground, instantly he seizes it. Yes, he doesn't do any sort of damage, but it's that sort of posturing that is so important if you're not in control. Get into that position where you can be the one to deal damage.
Base just hitting so many rails across the board. Directly above him, that was a great rail there. Even though he picked up the Mega, but it's been very costly for him. Now he's had to drop down to pick up that line.
Exactly what we just talked about, Lethal. He knows the timing, he didn't get the item, but instantly he pops out a second just as after it spawns. Hits 2 rails. Another finds the pick up, and he's already there to damage, nearly converts. Hell is on the ropes here, Base dancing through that telly. He can't convert just yet. Feels like a matter of time as Hell doesn't really have anything to work with. Base also just cannot hit a rail at this point.
Make it, oh, okay, there we go. He's managed to add another one. That's going to be 6-1 in favour of Base. And yeah, he wasn't really giving himself much room. He was trying to get a quick flick through those tellies, whilst also not taking too much damage at the same time. Terra's actually looking very fresh, but look at the damage from these rockets from Base. But Hell's still in it with a chance, but the shotty comes out here for Base, and that's going to be another one.
Yeah, but missing those rails before meant that it gave Hell off the spawn more time to get that Mega. So it has come back to bite him, although it was a little bit awkward at the time. Hell though is very early for this Mega. He charges on through as he knows where Base is, but again he just can't do enough damage. We're already at 8-1, and this is a scoreline more than capable of winning from at this point. So Hell needs to stop the spiral.
Yeah, he certainly does. Still trying to figure it out, but at least he takes down the totems, and it's just making matters worse here for Hell. Hell to circle around. Base realises that, got himself the information he needs. Just going to try and do a bit of damage if he can, push with the LG, but some defensive rockets from Hell just keep him at bay. Base just gets away straight away, keeps the high ground ready for that heavy, and just daring him to go for it. Does get it in the end, but the problem is, Dan, it's 2 rails straight off the bat.
Yeah, and you just don't get a free item against Base unless he deems it so. Hell's doing great damage, he's getting the items, but every single time, Base is just in the position and in the vicinity to punish Hell. So he's making it extremely difficult for his opponent. The other challenge is Hell's just not had any way of building an overstack. Every time there's a totem down, Base pops up and gets rid of it.
Yeah, not giving Hell much room here. Turret does come down. This Base now just biding his time here. As Hell is going to try and push on forward. Does find the turret though. Tries to place directly behind it. Rocket doesn't really do anything. But remember though, Hell does have 2 totems at the moment, so the overstack will be available shortly. 5 minutes in, 6 frags deficit going in favour of Base, so it does mean that Hell does have a chance, but at some stage, if it stays like this, in a couple of minutes time, he's going to have to start playing very aggressively, maybe even desperately at this point.
Yeah, and the balance of that, Base has no incentive to overextend. He's going to be doing exactly what he's been doing all game. He'll be in position to do damage, but he doesn't even need to take those positions aggressively. There can be safe positions to try and hit a cheeky rail here or there, because he's got so much buffer in terms of the stack advantage and in terms of the frag advantage.
He certainly does. As Base kept the high ground for fair amount. Heavy's coming up next few seconds, and Hell needs to contest this to the best of his ability, and it looks like he did a good job, but in the end though, Base does get away. Suicide comes out for Hell. Of course now for Base, he'll take that any day of the week.
He will indeed. It just feels like Hell's doing a good job, but for every rail he hits, Base responds in kind. There's just no advantage for Hell in these situations. Once again, he hits a nice rail. Well, I mean, Hell didn't even hit it. But here we go, and he's met Base down below, and as you said, this is where desperation begins kicking in.
He does have those 3 turnips up, well 4 now after that one was taken down, so it's not like he's been cornered off in any way. He still had the overstack, but again, just not been able to do much with it here. 9-1, and it's just, time's is running out here. The desperate moves or attempts or the high risk needs to come out, but again, like you mentioned, just Base covering all areas, all angles, very well aware of exactly where Hell is going to be lurking, and it's been pretty tough here for Hell. I kind of feel like it's been cornered off on too many occasions.
And now Hell can't even get onto the map. He might even have lost timing at this point because it's been so long since he picked up a major item. In all game long, he hasn't got a free major item at all. You can see him now over on the Mega. He is just early. He's going to make his way, trying to defend it. But without the timing, more or less sitting duck. He has to push in. There's no other choice at this point. But just look at the stack of base.
Yeah, the fact that he's still got this stack, it means he can continue that aggression without too much of a train of thought here. As Hell does back away once again, but at this stage, he's going to have to do anything he can with whatever weapons he can find. But at the same time, Base is not only, contesting his items really well and just having a nice set strategy and a pre-plan, but also at the same time just contesting his weapons all the time, just making it really difficult to find any kind of footing in this map.
Base hasn't even needed to venture out into this room all map long. He's just been controlling that high ground, controlling the 2 major items. I mean, if you look to the heat map, it'll be really limited from Base, but it's the right positions at all times.
Even with the overstack, haven't really found much here. We've got no reason to leave Base's screen here. There's now 2 minutes left, looking to try and stop that. But, oh, Hell does manage to get in the end, so okay, yeah, it gives himself a little bit of, well, the tiniest amount of leeway. Still got to find 8 in 2 minutes, which is, the way Base is going to play, he's going to change to that defensive posture, and yeah, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is all she wrote, I think, Lethal, but I mean, don't underestimate the mental aspect. Just picking up a little bit of momentum going into the second map.
Yeah.
But this was probably the biggest mauling we've seen all day in terms of just strategy. Obviously, I think Garpy Max Exile was bad, but that was more Garpy's over-aggression. I felt this was just Base just outclassed Hell. I thought Hell was putting on and making the right decisions, actually playing reasonably well. It was just Base was doing that better, and that is scary. I mean, I've spoken to multiple people this event who said Base has been looking in the best form he's ever looked in some regards. So we'll see how much that continues throughout the event.
Yeah, peak Base is definitely not something you want to come up against, but this series could definitely help Base ooze with confidence. And it's like you said though, if Hell just at least grasps a few more frags in this matchup, and at least that way he'll be feeling, okay, kept it a little bit closer, let's see what we can do in the second map, which will be on Deep Embrace. 35 seconds left though, Base is just trying to find out exactly what mischief Hell is up to. Will be ported him through, he's going to be able to find him, and I'm just using the LG to full effect so far, but Hell misses the rail. This is going to be the opening which Base was looking for. Some decent damage there, trying to finish with a shotgun, just a little bit more just to add, but he's of course going to prioritize the heavy. Was thinking was going to bait it, but at this point there's not really much use to it. 15 seconds left, pretty much done it.
Absolutely. Said Hell's rails are going to be key in the start of the game, and Base outrailed him. So again, that's a sign of how well Base played, and Vale is just a map he's very strong on. Ison is very good once again. We saw it with Amek, we've seen it with Base. Should be seeing more of Ison, should be seeing more of Vale. Yeah, 31% round from Hell. That was obviously a big factor. The item pretty much half of what Base could get. He was just locked out of the map. It was pretty well contested to start. Well, for the kind of early mid game, but then Base just got into that rotation. He bullied Hell, and Hell was just retreated to the outskirts, retreated to that rail room.
He saw that as well as all that item control. 1,800 more damage Base had. He almost had double, really, considering what you saw there. And I think it definitely reflected from what we saw in that matchup. Now, going into map number 2, which will be on Deep Embrace, I'm quite surprised it's on this map. I would have expected something like Runes or Molten Falls coming out from Hell, just due to the fact that at least that way he'll have the opportunity to, select a slash or anything else. But because of that, though, because he selected Deep Embrace, obviously the slash is now being banned, now going to Molten Falls if it does go to the third map. But how do you feel about Deep Embrace, about Hell's chances as well? Because we haven't really seen him play on Deep Embrace that much, apart from when he plays Scarpy.
Yeah, it's one of those maps where it can either be really good or really bad.
Yeah,
I think it's a nice map if you get to kind of stabilize a little bit, because you can snowball off of it, but it's also a scary map if you're the one that then gets off to a bad start. So we'll see how it goes. We've definitely seen Base lose this against people he shouldn't be losing it before. I also like the Ranger against the Doom. The Doom is still a very, very good pick, but Ranger is also a very, very good pick. So we'll see. Again, I'll just say once again, rail. We saw it in Wenger versus Wolf earlier. Wenger just out-railed Wolf and he couldn't get into the game. If Hell can get that momentum, if he can begin to string together some rails, absolutely he could win this game. If he doesn't and Base manages to grab it, we're in a lot of trouble.
But the thing is, though, when Hell played Garpy, he was railing out of his mind. He was looking absolutely solid. It was just, again, timings and just, when he wasn't really contesting the items, he was kind of like railing Garpy in positions where he couldn't get involved with the heavy at all. That was one of his main issues here. And this is the problem where I feel like for Hell, this is what I'm hoping is rectified going into this. I'm sure it was definitely a massive learning experience, especially in the tournament center. It's definitely thinking way back, so many months ago with the fact of what exactly happened. He definitely knew what happened as well. It's just a problem if he can at least deliver this time round.
But you've also just characterized 25 years of Hell's career. Like, amazing mechanics, but then the blips or kind of a consistent theme of just tactically not being up to par, really. And it's good enough to get, top 8 at top events, but going against people like Base, where their strongest suit is penalizing you for not being perfect, and to take away the map, to take away the items, you cannot do that. You need 10 minutes of almost perfect quake, perfect rotation, plus the aim to beat someone like Base in these conditions.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll just have to see when we're going into deep embrace. Our esports dad is still in it, though. He's still working his way, but it's like I said, it's very tough now. I think the damage dealt there across the board. If he did a little bit closer in terms of damage due to the fact he's contesting the item a little bit better, then yeah, we had a little bit more to elaborate on that, at this point. But it's going to be tough.
We should be jumping in anyway, as the game has started.
It might have done. It might have done, Dan. It's just a matter of having a little nosy around and see if we can get involved. And it looks like we have done. 30 seconds in, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll continue. It looks like Base has actually managed to pick up the first frag already, just from Hell's POV to see how he can try and recuperate from this early deficit.
Yeah, we just give Base a 1 frag advantage.
Yeah.
He earned it from previous map, but Hell is here on the low ground. That's for the lightning gun to work with. Base has found him though, forcing him away. Not too much damage, just holding the angle though with the rail, as he knows that Hell wants to get across to that rail. Trying to bait out Base, trying to do some sort of damage. Not enough though. And off the spawn, that is deep embrace for you. Just rail off the rail.
This could be a replica of what we saw in his first map. Base is just all over him at this stage. Look at the stack difference as well. He actually ordered up to pick up the light, does manage to stay alive, but it's kind of like delaying the inevitable. There we go. That's going to be another one here for Base, and he's just going straight in on the rail spawn. Realises that he's rotated around. He's actually directly above him for the heavy, but he doesn't care. He's got so much stack. He can definitely do something here. But Hell, some good rounds there just to keep him at bay and at least give him some time. Well, okay, never mind. 4-0.
Yeah, Hell knew he had to make a play though, because of the Doom and the double jump. It's so easy for him to get up onto the high ground and bully Hell. Hell was trying to cut him off before that happened, try and hit another rail, but this time he's done a fair amount of damage. Base, well, maybe just get the Mega. Hell does get a really poor spawn to contest, but he's now finally got Base into a very manageable position, and Hell can slowly get himself into fighting stack here. Nice.
I think Base realises what Hell's capable of, so make sure to get this, huge early lead just to try and add a little bit more pressure onto Hell, which is obviously feeling, of course, 2 minutes into this matchup, but good rocket there just to keep Hell at bay once again. Base doing just a great job just valuing his life, staying alive, just keep Hell guessing whilst he's trying to recover from that previous bout, but again, no, the items still got a little bit of time left. 10 seconds left for the heavy. Base is already in position, but it's just a matter of he can survive going for it. Looks like he's just going to leave it.
Nice.
Oh, and as I say that, Hell does take him down, gets his first frag, and the momentum may have shifted here down if he hits another one.
Yeah, lovely from Hell. He's got Base cornered right. He doesn't want him to get out because he knows the heavy's up. Does catch his opponent. Forces himself the other way. That might give Base an in to get onto this heavy. You can see him trying to jump up. Doesn't make it though. Hell gets it just in time and gets another frag. 5-3. The Mega's up and Base does get the spawn. Only got a lightning gun, so Hell can stick around and try and pick him off with the rails, but decides just to play the safer game. Needs to get up onto the high ground though.
And I think because Hell wasn't there for such a long time and Base didn't hear any steps, he probably made the assumption that he's actually backed away from the heavy, but that wasn't the case. Hell got there a little bit late, but you know what, that worked massively in his favour.
But positionally, Hell's made a big mistake there. He stuck around too long, trying to hit one more rail, and look, he's given Base the whole map to play with. Needed to retreat onto the high ground earlier, and that's cost him a frag at that point. It's just these little mistakes, Lethal, that you can somewhat get away with against other players, but people like Base will punish you.
Yeah, we're seeing quite similar mistakes from when we saw Hell play many moons ago against Garpy. There's still no bases on the hunt. He can smell blood on the border, just trying to chip away. And Hell, 2 for 2, looking a little bit better. Just keeping this as competitive as possible here, Dan.
Yeah, it's one of those frags where it's really nice, but it's also not massively impactful because your opponent respawns and gets the item and all the weapons he needs anyway. But it's obviously still nice to have.
Certainly is his base now. Just trying to get around him. Does hit the first, hits the second straight afterwards. So at least now, for Base, he can try and extend that lead. He's still got the stack to work with to keep the aggression. It seems like Hell's actually orbed up for the light. I think he's just playing it very, very safe.
It's one of those desperation use of the orb, though. Like,
yeah.
To use it just to get a light armor, it's such an important factor in the Ranger gameplay on this map. Done a good job though, should win himself a mega hit. Base actually swapping over to the heavy machine gun. I like that a lot, just to get consistent chip damage rather than risky missing the rails. Did take quite a lot of damage in the process though, but hitting that rail off the spawn will help his position and nullify that. He's got enough time before the next heavy to work his way over, and also steals away the light in the process.
Yeah, he's literally just chipping away. Doesn't pick up the heavy, but does get railed in return. Only problem is Hell's the one who's railable here. Looking to find that 9th frag. Decides to pick up the LG. He hasn't picked up as of yet. But instead, though, does all remember, he's going to be off. See you later, Hell. Sadly for him, that's going to be another one again for Base. Misses that first row. Hits the second one, though, to add a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, there's a bit of a sigh from Base there, as if
yeah.
Alright, here we go. But at least it's much more of a contest. And again, a large part of that is just to the rail, but it does feel now we're in that critical mass where Base has got a couple of uncontested frags, got a full stack, and it's just got rotation down, position for the mega. It's a hard minute or so from Hell, and if he doesn't hit any of his rails, he's pretty much point of no return.
Pieces of the puzzle coming together for Base. It took a little bit of time to stabilise in this matchup, and they managed to get there in the end, and it's going to make matters worse. They're getting in that 12th frag, and Base now just on guard to see if he's going to spawn around LG or at least bypassing that area, but instead he's managed to not find him, but it doesn't matter. He picks up the heavy, and he's going to get that for free, whilst Hell's on the other side of the map entirely. LG battle comes out, and it wasn't too bad from Hell there, but you know, too little too late. 3.5 minutes left, got to find 9 frags.
Yeah, he has to find him from somewhere, and he's hopefully a magician, because that's the only thing I see at this point. He's put him a much better game on deep, but again, it's just Base has been responding in kind for large parts. There were moments of magic, but you have to think, virtually every one of those frags was achieved by moments of magic. It's not been, you know, a strategical play where he's built up momentum, he's built a stack advantage, he grounded the opponent. It's just been stringing together rails, and that is just not sustainable. And we've seen it. Base has been the one to control the tempo in the map, and this is why it's 14-4.
Yeah, it's been dictating the pace even before we even got to the game, didn't we, Dan, at that stage? So we didn't even know what on earth happened in that first frag. And it's again, yeah, it's just more and more. The rails have been looking solid here from Base. And, you know, you were talking about he's pretty much at his peak, and the way he's playing at the moment, you can definitely see signs of that.
And we're in the same situation now we were in the last stages of Vale, where there's such a stand with such a lead advantage, where even if there's a hope in Hell to get back into it, you have to take the risk to do it. And that means Base has all the liberty to play defensive and let Hell run at him. We do trade, 2.5 minutes to go, 12 frags. Once again, it's definitely all she wrote.
It definitely is. It's just going to be a matter of time now, really. Just a couple of minutes before these two will finish up this series. It will be a 2-0 victory here for Base. It's just a matter of how many more frags he wants here, Dan, and just how he decides to do it here. But again, it's been a while here for Hell in the tournament, saying both, you know, of course, online and in a studio environment, but it was nice to see Hell back. But you know, we know he enjoys, you know, a lot of the slidey champions. You know, that's where he definitely very effective on. But the problem is now, though, with Deep Embrace and with the previous map as well on Vale, it's been a pretty tough road here.
Yeah, but I think that's where you see kind of a bit of almost respect from Base coming out, in that we didn't have a map that even favoured those picks, so Hell was kind of forced into the situation to play a slower gameplay. as you rightly put it, Hell's at his best where he's the one setting the tempo. He's sliding around the map and really abusing those mechanics because he is so good at them. And that also enables him to aim better. If he can open up the angles earlier than his opponents, that's where he hits those really lovely shots. But he was forced into this situation to play a more traditional game, if you will, with his champion picks. And Base just unfortunately played a much better game today.
And statistically as well, I think Hell made the right choice just choosing this map anyway. I don't know if he did it because for his benefit or in terms of like being comfortable on Deep Embrace, or the fact that for Base, this is actually one of his worst maps to play on. And it seems like Hell's decided to do a little bit of both just to see if he can try and catch Base off in some way. And I think for this map, Hell is a little bit more suitable for him, but it's still, even after Base playing on one of his worst maps, he's still able to come out on top with this scoreline.
Absolutely. It's just a snowball map, and we kind of, the Hell fans out there would have hoped he got the earlier start, got the quicker start. It just wasn't to be once again. That 1-0 Base quick start within 30 seconds, uphill from there. And there were moments of glory. There were moments where we felt, you know, maybe Hell can run away with it. He took the lead ever so slightly, but once Base picked up that momentum, he took the game by the scruff of his neck, and there was no looking back.
Yeah, he had some very quick starts, didn't he? When he found all those openings in both of the first maps. But that's going to be GG. That's going to be the series going in favour of Base 2-0. We was hoping to see, you know, some signs of life here from Hell. We saw a little bit here and there with the rails, but we definitely had to see a lot more from him, which was a little bit of a shame. It was just like, you know, we could have a shopping list of things he has to rectify and the mistakes he had to try and recover from. But yeah, it's a real struggle. But like I said, with playing against a peak Base, it's so difficult.
Absolutely, and he was looking really good today. Again, it was a pretty much a routine victory, if you will, for Base, and we've seen that 2-0s throughout the day. That was one of the more one-sided ones I felt, but that was more Base looking mightily fine than Hell looking pretty poor. Out of everyone we've seen, I would say Base is looking probably the sharpest so far. He looked really good, followed by Avec.
Yeah, he seemed really confident. He seemed very comfortable in the setting he's in and just being able to be a real nuisance as well. We saw a little bit more aggression here. I'm not too sure if he's just comfortable with the matchup or what he's doing, but it's not something that we see from Base. We normally see him not being obviously fully defensive throughout the entirety, but normally against most of the other players, especially with the top players, he's a little bit more cautious and a little bit unstable and wants to try and figure out exactly what they're up to. But we didn't really see too much of that against Hell.
No, and I think that's not falling away from his game, but he's definitely got a more balanced approach. And you're right, if he's going against someone he feels confidence against, he will stamp authority. And that's what we saw again today. He stamped authority, took the game away, but he has that real perfect understanding of the exact situation for overcommitting and how and where his opponent is playing. If you just think back to Vale, he didn't go into the rail room. He knew that's where Hell was playing. He let Hell come to him. He picked the angles extremely well, and that's why he's such a smart player to watch sometimes.
And the thing is, as well, he let him, like talking about Vale again and what you said, he let him have the overstack. He wasn't bothered about it. He was like, you can have the overstack all you want, but if you're going to give me both items and be out of position, then he's going to take that all day.
Yeah, 100%, and that's exactly what it is. He kept the split on the items, he played them perfectly, and he did exactly the same on Deep. Took him a little bit more time to solidify that because the rail from Hell was being quite annoying, but once he found his rhythm, that became nullified as well. And that's why he's just scary, because he adapts so quickly to the player he's playing, and he's one of the best at doing that.
And I'm trying to think as well what the next matchup's going to be. So I suppose for Base, I assume he's going to be playing Avec, isn't he? So I think that's definitely going to be a telltale signs of exactly what we expect from Base. And I think against a player like Avec, it is still going to be very tough. He also looks, you know, not too bad. He still looks very solid, don't get me wrong. And Buckster definitely gave him a run for his money.
Yeah, he did. But when you say it like that, I think Avec is one of these people that can unsettle Base. He will stride in. He knows how to attack you, and that's Avic's strength. So that's a real clash of styles. So actually speaking about that, we should actually jump into the bracket to see exactly how that's going to unfold, because that is one of the more interesting matchups. That's going to be Avec versus Base in the second round, and the winner plays the winner of Venga versus Maxter. So that is really good. But we've seen some great sets so far. Moving on to Razy Sib though. What do you think of that?
Oh, I was just about to say that before we go into it, but I still think the Nosfer versus Zenecu matchup is going to be unbelievable. That's definitely going to be one of the closest ones we'll see, and we still haven't seen a huge amount anyway, but even Razy versus Sib, we know for Sib, we'll have to see exactly how he can do back in this setting, but for Razy though, I was watching him during the scrims throughout yesterday, in I think at least 2 or 3 of the maps, but he's probably looked the most comfortable out of most of the players here we've seen so far.
I think so. I mean, that's just Razy. You don't really know. You can't really read him. Not very much emotion, outward emotion anyway. But saying like Sib, I know he was super hyped to come here. I mean, I've been speaking to him a fair amount while he's here, and he's had a bit of a difficult time. Yeah, his setup wasn't working. His keyboard wrote. There's not been as much practice for Sib. I will put that out there. But we've also seen in the past when these two guys have played, Germany is only one winner. So we've got to look at Razy and sometimes think about how big is that scoreline going to be.
Yeah.
Razy's Razy. So I'm interested to see which Razy turns up, because I also know he's made some personal changes to his own setup since QuakeCon. But anyway, we're going to get into that. I don't know what to say really.
I know, I don't either. It's just, that's the problem with Sib. It's a shame that, you know, things fell a little bit short for him. We know that the same keyboard, but different. Obviously, even when you use a new setup and it's the same device, it still feels a little bit, you know, alien to you, doesn't it, really? And that's going to be a serious issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. Particularly at these type of events, particularly if you're an underdog, it's about feeling comfortable and feeling confident. And like, if we look back to people like Maxter back in the day, they played their game. Yeah, that's the thing. If you go into these sets and you try and change the way you play, that's where you fall down. I've suffered it myself, and I think every pro at some stage will try and change something because they think it's the right thing to do, or they're playing someone better than them. That won't get you anywhere. For most of the time, that won't get you anywhere. So to have, again, another factor to layer on top of that, that's not working for you, yeah, it doesn't put him in a really strong position. But again, lucky as a loser bracket.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, it gives them time to kind of get used to it anyway. But I think you're right, though. Just play your A game, and you know, if you do have a plan B, at least be comfortable in that setting with the plan B. That's the problem, isn't it? And we'll have to see the next match very shortly, because we do have Razy versus Sib coming up shortly, and we still got a few more matches left to go as well. Still got 4 more left on the tally. So guys, don't go anywhere, as we'll be back in just a few moments.